talk about registered voters, Democrat can win it hands down. So I don't know why you guys had to do all this ballot harvesting anyway. You guys had numbers. Republicans need independent voters. That's the only way we do well in that crunch time. Yeah, Democrats like to play, pitch for them as well, but we need them. And if you have that many voters feeling disenfranchised because you didn't stand up for the person they voted for, that's going to be a problem. And I told my wife, I don't know what happened overnight, but I said, you know what? I'm going to leave the Republican Party. I'm just going to register as independent. That's going to be my way of sticking it back to them. And I
Okay.
was really on that. That in a 3.5 mile walk, that's where I was by the time I got back. But when I woke up, my granddaughter said to me, I saw you on the she said, I saw you on the phone. So someone's letting her watch one of the shows on the phone.
Okay.
So that in itself said, okay, well, maybe I won't. Because I was even thinking, man, I'm just tired of this whole political thing. I'm really burnt out. Not because I'm a Trump guy, just because I can't stand to watch people. I don't like jumping or ganging up on people. You got a beef, take it out one on one. I never like ganging up on person from a kid, from people know me from high school. I mean, just things out in the street. I mean, I like a good fight, man. Let's get it. But ganging up on somebody has never been my thing, and that's where Trump is. They know he's vulnerable, and they can help, but they'd have to get their feet dirty and get dragged through the mud, and they just aren't willing to do that.
Um, but I guess where I end up is none of this should be a surprise to anyone. First of all, Trump comes out of nowhere, and I don't know if his Republican support was any greater than the Democratic support for Obama. The Democratic Party was all set to go with Hillary. So much so that Hillary didn't even think she needed to show up in Iowa and do anything when Barack Obama first put his neck out there and said, I'm running. If you go back and look at a lot of what Obama tried to do during the time he was in office, he had more issues with establishment Democrats than the Republicans. And they were behind the scenes emboldening them to such an extent because he didn't have the alliances that normally go. But this is the world of politics. It is what it is. And so for Donald Trump, though, the other one is Donald Trump doesn't espouse Republican principles. That's the shocking piece to me. Besides putting an R over his name,
Mm-hmm.
he's not espoused or has he governed from a conservative Republican position. He has not been a president that respected the independence of the judiciary and the law. Um, he's not promoted and pushed for family values. He's not shown the
I'd
level.
had to push back there. I mean, because he's allowed the
I'll tell you
church
why.
to
I'll tell you
do.
why I say that at, and that's mainly with what he did with these families and kids on the border.
Oh,
I'm
stop.
all for sending back illegal aliens, put them back where they came from. I'm all for a lawful process. I am not for mistreating families and vulnerable children to make political points. And I hope that this thing with these kids that's happening at the border that may never be reunited with their families gets hung around his neck somehow. I think it's almost immoral in that regard. You only get one life. And I've taken that same position on other things. I took that same position as it relates to how we look back at the Vietnam War. There are people's lives that we're putting out there and asking them to do their part. And at the same time, though, we're just making political points. But I don't think Donald Trump has endeared himself to Republicans. He thought giving judges would be enough. He thought, hey, I gave you your judges. And so if you give my judges, nothing else I do really matters. I'm shocked though at how quickly it appears the Republican Party seems to be splintering and
Well,
splitting
because
into pieces.
this is the time to do it. He's on the ropes. They're just waiting for that last punch to take him out. But like anything else, when someone's not for you. In any other context, you can tell when someone's doesn't really have your back. You feel that way, but they don't say it to your face. But you just know. But when
Yeah.
things get rough, that's when you know who has your back, and that's where he is now. He's been on those ropes for a while, but to push at some of your points, yeah, he didn't care about the Republicans. Remember, he called us stupid. He way back when they interviewed that surfaced when he was running. Yeah, the Republicans are so stupid. I'll run as a Republican, I'll win. He was a registered Democrat. He said he'd run as a
Correct.
Republican. I wasn't even bothered by that. I mean, I didn't follow Trump when he was. I never watched. I don't
Nobody
do rallies.
listen until he got the nomination. I don't think anybody did.
Right. But he was a Democrat. And I think that's why they hate him so much, because he was the
I
quintessential
want to be clear
Democrat.
when you say they, who hates him so much?
Democrats, the establishment Democrats, and you can say
Oh,
the rank and
he's like
file.
every other Republican, though. You just throw
Huh?
them all in there. He got no more vilified. We vilified George Bush. We
No,
vilified
no.
Reagan.
I'm saying he was a Democrat, but I'm looking at the profile. You know,
Okay.
I like to play Democrat politics. He's a rich old white man. You guys hate them, but you keep him
But
in
that's
power.
90% of the party.
Huh?
That's most of the Republican Democratic leadership.
I know that. So I don't understand why when I'm reading stuff and it's like, and I don't want a man to tell me this and these old white men, you remember the hearings with Kavanaugh. Come on, I'm not gonna let you guys get away from all the stuff they were saying about old white men and this and that. I'm like, geez, who do they think run these parties for all these years? Maybe they saw someone
Now
else.
but the creep is in. It's creepingly changing. And that's okay. For example, I'm really in love with Biden's administration.
I bet you are.
I mean, I like the idea. There's a lot of validation for a lot of groups of people who've been sidelined. I mean, we take a look at Trump's cabinet. He threw in Ben Carson, who can barely complete a sentence without falling asleep. And we don't. Where's Ben? Where is Ben?
I hadn't seen him in a while. Hadn't seen him
Where's
since he
Ben?
came down with COVID.
It seems like to me the Republican Party is kind of dividing itself up over this election fraud thing. And I would love to get your opinion on where do we stand with the election fraud, I guess, investigation, litigation, next action.
Yeah, well, the only thing he has left, I mean, he's lost all of the court challenges. I mean, he's had some. I think there's a Sidney Powell, she's supposed to be the one with the Kraken, has all this evidence of all these foreign actors, which has come out with the Solar Winds. We know that our national intelligence infrastructure has been hacked or had been hacked. And
but hold on for a minute. I've not heard Donald Trump explain to me that hacking. And I'm just a little cautious about believing these other people. Well, but he's not even mentioned it.
Well, I think in this case, they probably hadn't told him much about it. I mean, this is not something you want to broadcast, just how bad your national.
Well, at least something. Well, who do I believe? So do I believe Fox? Do I believe CNN? I'm waiting on Donald. I'm waiting on our president to explain to me what this is. And he's not given any statements about it whatsoever.
I'm not bothered by that at all, because it bothers me. It really bothers me when they announce to the world what all the problems are at that level, what we're doing overseas, what's our next move. All that bothers. We don't need to know that. You don't need to know. You're not going to do anything about that decision. You can't make any decision personally that affects what happens at the national level of our.
I mean, the beauty of a democratic government, though, is we have the right to see our government, what's happening, and then to hold them accountable. If you don't know what's happening, that's a different issue. But you're saying that the cybersecurity thing is connected to the voter fraud?
It definitely is, because remember that this Chris Krebs, or whatever his first name,
yes.
But he went on record saying, "Oh, it was the most secure election in our history." Which, why would someone make that statement? I mean, that's just crazy. When we know we have fraud every election. But now they've already found out with just the audit of those 22 systems up in Michigan, Antrim County, whatever it was, the sheer number out of the 27, 68%, it was a 68% error rate.
Got it. Well, let me jump to this. Let me ask you this, because I'm trying to figure out if Republicans got their way right now, what is the solution that would unify the country and allow us to move forward?
Well,
what is that solution?
There's no unify the country, because before the election, the country wasn't unified. So this thing, the solution here is to have those 5 states. We don't need have a recount with voter ID comparison, so you can get rid of the duplicate votes, the dead votes, the illegal votes, and recount those numbers, not recount the ballots that scan through the system and come up with the same number. That's the issue in Georgia. My understanding is Fulton County, Atlanta was the big issue, hence Stacey Abrams. But they announced that they're going to do signature audit verifications in Cobb County. But that's not the big county, and that's not the one where the problem was. So it's like, well, we're going to give you something. We're just going to do this county. And then they say, well, it's our choice. And we can pick, we're choosing Cobb County for whatever reason. But the Senate hearing, there's no ifs, ands, or but about it. They've already said that what they've established it, and they've grouped them. The three categories were violation law, election law violations, ballot harvesting, and what was the third one? I can't get the third group, but they grouped them. You know, Krebs spoke, the senator spoke. What I found interesting was, and goes back to my first point, is the Republicans don't have the backbone that Democrats would have if they were in this situation. If they really felt Barack Obama, this election was anyway framed with Barack Obama being the incumbent and the election was stolen, they'd be screaming to the high heavens. They'd be tearing up stores. They'd be looting, jumping on people in the street, because that's what that base does. That's that arm of that base. Let them lose, let them wreak havoc. But the Republicans don't have that backbone. So in this Senate hearing, they concede. And there's massive fraud, but they also put the side note, we don't think. Now, how can you concede that there's been violation, ballot harvesting to the tune of those numbers, and then say, but we don't think it rises to the level that it can overturn? That's that safe place. So I'm going to have this election this hearing for appearance's sake, but I'm not willing to take this. Ron Johnson is the chairman. He's the outgoing chairman. He could do this, but there's something else about this. Now, in the background of all of this is China. We talk about the SolarWinds and that cyber security hack. They said that it's been reported that it's China, Russia, and could be Iran. There's something else about China in your party. The Stallwell, whatever his name is. So there's a lot of China, and it's just so coincidental that they started out 2016, Russia, but they don't want to talk about China. And we have more proof on Hunter Biden and Eric Stallwell than you guys ever had on Trump.
Okay, listen, since you've done this, I don't know, Professor, I'm trying to be as generous as I can to give you the platform to get your thoughts out there. So you went down, you throw Swalwell in there, little left hook. I didn't see that coming. But I'm trying to figure out the relevance of that in all these things.
It's all relative to, we're not dealing with a virus from China. We're not dealing with a cybersecurity hack that also includes China. We're not dealing with a person who was one of the ones who voted and was a really big voice in a Russia collusion investigation that's now been deemed he's had a sexual relationship with a Chinese spy, and then say, I can't find the relevance in what happened with our election.
I thought you were going to say he had a relation with a China person. You said a China spy.
Chinese spy. That's what
Chinese
they call them,
spy.
right?
Okay. All right.
And the name, I just don't want to say the name because that's just funny to me. But anyway, how can one say, and then Dominion Systems, just to finish this whole thing about the election fraud, it's the Dominion system, voting system, and software, I see you making notes, that's somehow connected to both. I'm not going to bring Zuckerberg in, I just threw his name out, but let's say China. China's supposed to be, I don't want to say the sole owner of that company, but there's a tie-in. And if China keeps popping up in every major conversation and confrontation in our government, then China, more so than Russia. And this is what baffles us Republicans. How can y'all see a Russia collusion that you couldn't, in 4 years, you couldn't prove, but you can't see something happening that Ratcliffe has already confirmed? Pelosi's already spoken to this thing with Eric, with Stallwell. What's it, Swalwell? Whatever.
Swalwell.
Okay. So there's no ifs, ands, and buts about that. So to say that we can't see a connection to election fraud is I'm not sure. It's because you don't want to see it.
Let me see if I can connect these pieces. And I think what I'm hearing you say is, in the lack of action by the Republican establishment is what's giving the its Republican base, making it lose its confidence. Because I can't imagine Republican courts couldn't see all this evidence you just talked about and threw it out.
What's a coordinated
judges that Trump appointed, that his 3 Supreme Court justices and 2 justices that were involved in the Bush v. Gore matter wouldn't see that evidence. That your Republican Senate, led by Mitch McConnell, who's never shown a leaning towards helping the Democrats, wouldn't see. I'm just kind of, and so you, if I were to kind of crystallize this down, I'm thinking, so you're saying, and this is what's making the base lose confidence in the Republican Party,
right? Because it's not, they're not seeing it. They don't want to act on it because this upends the whole card, if you will. There's a rush to get back to some sense of normalcy. I don't think anyone's going to dispute that. With a Donald J. Trump out of the White House, put back in a Joe Biden, you have Washington the way it was.
Okay,
take out the last 4 years.
That for a minute. Trump in office, tell me how he's hurt the Republican position and movement, because on local levels, Republicans now hold more offices than ever. In state legislatures, they control more legislatures than ever.
Right.
The strength of the Republican Party was reflective in this recent election, where we were expecting on the Democratic side, we pick up the Senate and expand our majority in the House, and neither of those happened.
Right.
Stock market going through the roof under Donald Trump, people making money left and right. All you need to do is know Ivanka, Jared, Eric, or who's that other Trump fella? Eric and
Kushner.
No. Who's the other Trump son? Eric
Trump Jr. Eric. There's Donald Trump Jr. There's is it Eric? Laura? Yeah. It's only 2, right?
Don and Eric. You know, any one of them, you can get anything you want at the White House. They got direct lines in. I don't understand, why would Republicans want Donald Trump out of the way? Explain that to me.
Well, that's the issue. They rode his coattails, and so you're trying to tell me, because you're making me forget what I'm trying to say. With all that you just mentioned, the strength of the Republican Party is solely attributed to Trump. This election proved it, and he picked up 10 million more voters. So you're trying to tell me a guy that's done that much for you, because there's a coordinated effort with China leading the way. Behind the scenes, it's a coordinated effort. Now, you mentioned the courts. Now, there's been, this is conspiracy theory, because I can't prove it otherwise, and we know the major outlets aren't reporting on it. But this whole thing with Roberts, Chief Justice Roberts, there's supposed to been some fallout between, there was allegedly, now staffers reported, and this was also on a C-SPAN hearing that I watched during the week. I don't know what SREC stands for, but there was a congressman from Texas who was talking about a report that they had received from a staffer at the Supreme Court who talked about the Texas case in particular. He talked about how these cases normally happen when the justices meet together. They go in a room, no cell phones, no nothing. This day, with the Texas lawsuit, they heard screaming. They heard a conversation between Gorsuch and Chief Justice Roberts, where he's yelling at Gorsuch. They heard and I guess they know the voices, but apparently Thomas said that this is where democracy dies and blah, blah, blah. And the ending of that was Chief Justice Roberts yelling, saying he doesn't care. They referenced 2000, and he said, well, in 2000, Gore v. Bush, we didn't have riots. So right there, and I mentioned this was something that another outlet talked about last week. The implications of hearing that case and deciding. I don't think they need to decide it. They just push it back and have a revote. That's what, because we know it was fraud. You guys know it was fraud. Here's the other piece.
No, I do not know. No more than normal.
Okay, no more than normal.
At a local level, did you have somebody's grandmama, whose son helped her fill out the paperwork and held her hand while she signed it? Maybe. Did somebody, forget something? But not enough to impact it. No more than normal. there was no more than normal.
Well, that's what one says, but I have yet to see the Democrats push um, a statistician and a report that refutes the report that's come out from the forensic audit of the Michigan Dominion systems. See, when you have the forensic audit, then you have to have a statistician that can say, because you guys want us to, you guys say Trump is not listening to the science for COVID. But you guys don't want to look at numbers that say, see, it's not saying the chance that Biden, it's the improbability / impossibility that he could have a vote swing in 4 states between the same hours and the uptick. I mean, those are numbers that you can't dispute. And the Democrats are just saying, well, we don't have enough. We don't see the evidence. We don't see the evidence. But they're not.
I don't see it. But let's do this real quick. Let's put a pin in that, Professor.
Okay.
So got a lot that you want to share today. We're going to make sure you get that opportunity. I've always been accused of, oh, got to take a break and pay up your bills and let them do what they need to do in the studio. So let's take a quick break, Professor. Catch your breath.
I'm going to go get some numbers. Let me get these numbers.
Come back. On the status side, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. We'll listen to Insight Radio, Galaxy Radio. Everybody can be a star. We'll be right back after this
break. You've been injured, you deserve help from an attorney that knows how to handle your injury claim. This is Attorney Clinton Paris from the Law Office of Clinton Paris. For over a decade, I worked for insurance companies, and now I use that knowledge and experience to help people that have been injured. For a free consultation, call me, Attorney Clinton Paris, at 813-413-7924. That's 813-413-7924, or at parislawoffice.com. At the Law Office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being hurt. Offices, Riverview.
Hi, this is Trina Johnson with Caldwell Banker Real Estate, the real estate agent you've been looking for. If you want top dollar for your home or you're looking to make a purchase, call me at 813-244-6953. Again, 813-244-6953, and let me list your home.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan. We were able to get in touch with each other in no time.
Idea how to find each other.
The whole experience was fine.
The most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
It's a beautiful day.
This is Daryl Johnson
and Tampa Bay Tammy,
wishing all our listeners all over the world
happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to
you. From In Touch News
and Radio.
All right, we are back live. Okay, let me answer the question. I got a text message that said, are you the Clinton Paris attorney in the commercial that ran during our break? I have breaking news for anybody listening. Yes, I am one and the same person. I am a real attorney with a real law office, and I do real legal stuff. That's what I do during the week. On the weekend, I get the joy of sitting here on this radio talking with my co-host, Professor Tony Seabrook, who enlightens me and educates me on perspectives that unless I listen to Breitbart and a bunch of other right-wing websites, Newsmax and the like, I would never know existed.
Newsmax, exactly.
Welcome back to the microphone, Professor. Man, you are letting it go this morning.
Hey, you hear my printer going, I'm waiting on this report to print out from the forensic audit.
Wait a minute. Oh, not the stats. Okay. So I'd like to remind people, because a lot of people, you listen to the show and you may only hear our show on Saturdays, but In Touch News is a full suite of urban media. What do I mean by that? There's a print version. There's a newspaper that's printed, keeps our community informed on all kind of current events and things happening. You have this live radio version that we do as well on the internet. And they have just a full array of information-based media that people can take a part of. So if you go to the In Touch News website, while you're looking at the show, look around at the website, look at some of the other stuff, and in particular, check out some of the shows that are on the station. I would like to highlight the show that follows our show, which is called The Sole Purpose, and that is hosted by Keith and Monica Harris, one of Tampa's great couples. But they just fill us up with so much information. So if you're around 11 o'clock, please stay tuned. Check out their show. Enjoy it if you would. Engage, call them. Also want to touch on something else that I've gotten a couple of text message emails about is people say, listen, that Zoom call-in number and ID is just too long. It's too many numbers. I got it. So what I'm going to remind everybody, you can still call the station. And you can call the station at the 813-444-9588 number. That's 813-444-9588. You can call that number and you can get patched into the show. Now listen, you hear me and the professor talking, we sound like pretty nice people, but we can be terrorists too. So don't call up in here on this show with some foolishness. You got a nice comment, you want to be respectful and have something to say and become part of figuring out solutions to issues affecting our community. Please give us a call. Again, the number 813-444-9588. And for those savvy intellectual types, let me give you the Zoom contact information. Again, the Zoom number 929-205-6099. And then the ID number on Zoom is 834-088-74026. Okay. All right, enough of me rumbling about that stuff, Professor. Let's get back to trying to figure out some of these. Okay, so here's something I want to get your perspective on. It may get you, you're going to fall back into this voter thing.
Okay.
They're reporting in Georgia there has been a surge in newly registered voters in Georgia just in time for this upcoming runoff election. And bells and whistles are going off that, hey, there's something funky going on here. We know that there was some Democrat that came out and said, hey, everybody who can get to Georgia and get registered if you can, so you can participate in the election. Other people say it's just more of this get out the vote movement on both sides, pushing. I know the Republicans have been in and out of town left and right based on the COVID numbers because nobody wears masks at their rallies. So they've been coming and going, pushing the numbers up. So we know they're in town. I think Joe's been through that.
We're going to be seen as carriers, man.
So anyway, what are your thoughts about this? Hey, we're seeing a lot of newly registered voters in Georgia just in time for the upcoming runoff.
I'm never concerned about a get out to vote. That's par for the course, right? We have an election coming up, and it's a really important one. But given what Georgia has already, they're waist deep in it because they are beholden to this dissent decree that I still don't know much about that Stacey Abrams put in place. And I saw, could have been the old headline, Stacey Abrams says she has like 1 million new voters. She has like this stash of new voters. And
yeah,
and it's like, okay.
Wow.
So that's not the problem.
Here's the number. I just looked it up.
What is it?
76,000 newly registered voters just for the primary, for this runoff.
Okay.
That's a stiff number. That's a lot of people.
So out of that, how many are legal?
They are all legal until somebody proves they're illegal.
Well, herein lies our problem, because that's what Stacey Abrams suckered Brian Kemp into not doing. The Secretary of State.
You know why?
Why?
Brian Kemp might have went to jail. That's why he did that. He was going to go to jail. Let me tell you why he was going to go to jail.
Tell me.
he disenfranchised, I think, 1.5 million voters by purging them from the rolls in his own governor's race, which was disproportionately minority and Democrat. That's why he kind of went along with this Secretary of State cutting this deal with with Abrams. He was
Okay, so then you agree. So then you know why we Republicans are angry, because he went into a deal to save his skin. But let's not act like purging a voter roll is somehow something that's not routinely done. I mean, that's why you have a voter list, because you need to make sure that people on it are legal, not dead, and are still in the state. So him scrutinizing that list is nothing wrong with that. That should be done regularly.
I agree with that if you follow some established process.
Right. And
exactly. It is not done at a time when it just benefits you.
Exactly. So
he botched that. But listen, this is pretty standard with you go along, find the people that Trump support. They're all murky. They're all murky people. And Kemp is no different. And now Republicans want to turn on Kemp. And Kemp is saying what Trump said. I'm the same guy that I've always been. He's no different.
Oh, we have a caller. Come on in, caller. Hey, caller, you there? This is Straight Up the Middle. Who do we have?
I can't hear him on my end. Can you hear him?
I can't hear him on my end either.
All right, our caller, if you're listening, let's do this. Try to call in just regular through the station. Try the call-in number, which is 8813-444. I got to remind myself of the phone number now. 9588. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from? Oh, we know
Carla's not driving today.
Maybe there's no horn, no beeping. What's going on? Tell us what's on your mind. We haven't heard from you in a while. We're here. A voter fraud in this election, you're saying? Listen, Carl. Carl. Let me ask you, Carl, since you're on the ground in Georgia, how's Georgia? Because we see this from the outside. How's Georgia doing with this runoff? How's Georgia responding inside the state of Georgia? How's it going? He could hear me. Okay. All right, then. Well, give us a call back, Carl. Thank you for that call. We appreciate it very much. Again, we're just trying to, use all the technology we can and have people connect with us in various ways. And we thank you for listening. But it got my attention that, Professor, they've added a large number of voters into a state that is under such scrutiny already. But does it speak to somebody being motivated? Usually runoff, they're saying that this runoff might exceed the presidential election in numbers. What does that say about the Republicans and the Democrats? Because my position is the Democrats are kind of upset. Y'all are kind of split up in Georgia and may end up giving these 2 seats over to the Democrats. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think that's the case. I think if any worst case scenario, we lose one, we still keep the majority in the Senate. That's worst case scenario. We probably grab them both. And here's the big difference. Donald J. Trump. Donald J. Trump shows up at a rally, super spread event, as you guys like to call them. He's going to pull in about 10, 20,000 people. What Democrat can you send there that'll pull in 5,000 people? None. There's none so popular. You can't even send Joe Biden, the one who supposedly got 80 million. He probably get about 200 people. So that's the difference in this election. That's just what he does. And he has the base. So when you say that we're split up, Trump is going to be the only president that's going to take his base. He can take the base with him. President Obama couldn't even take that base with him. So, but let me make a statement to so I can get facts. So we like to talk about what the court has said we haven't seen, but one of the things that they allowed, that the justice, one of the justices, I think it might have been the Supreme Court or some court, allowed this forensic audit. So just so there are numbers that speak, so we're not going back and forth, because people like to say believe the science. So if you believe in science, you certainly have to believe in math. So here's number 6. If you want to look at this report, I'll give you the name. The allowable election error rate established by the Federal Election Commission guidelines is 1 in every 250,000 ballots. 1 in every 250,000 ballots. Now just think about that, us science believing people. 1 in every 250,000 ballots. That's the allowable error rate, which is 0.0008%. So guess what, Atrium County, Michigan? Guess what their error rate was? 68.05%. This demonstrated a significant fatal error. So you can't tell me there was no, what this is it's a collaborative effort. It's been going on for months. They were going to get Trump out of there one way or another, and they got him. And everyone's willing to turn a blind eye, even the ones that rode in on his coattails.
And that's the thing. That is the piece. So how do there's a lot that just rolled out of that, Professor, and I never confuse popularity with support.
Right.
Or voters.
Right.
And just because you have people showing up at a rally, hey, it's COVID, not a lot going on, they can't go to the movies, concerts are canceled. Guess what we'll do? Trump says come to his event. That's showing up to me, though, and the fact that Democrats still had more people voting doesn't equate to necessary support. The other one is, I think, isn't Trump kind of unreliable right now for the Republicans? I'm afraid that any minute, if Trump does anything, that thing in Georgia is doomed if he doesn't what that's expected. For example, if he leaves office and goes to Mar-a-Lago, and every other week he doesn't show back up in Georgia, I think there's a problem there. Worse, what is the benefit to him of getting involved in this? Why? Why would he do that for people that let him down? Why would he help the Republican establishment that let him down?
I just showed you. He's already on record. There's been no sitting president that's garnered more votes. You know he's all about the me factor. So he's going to be able to say, I got more as a sitting president. That guy lied, and he just cheated how he got in. And no one can dispute that. You can say...
Is he the only guy, though, that lost 2 popular votes? Hillary got more than he did last time. Biden got more than he did this time.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that's really funky about all this, Professor, is on those ballots you're talking about that are so fraudulent, Republicans did pretty well.
Here's the thing. We don't care about the recount. You guys keep throwing it up. Well, if you recount, Republicans did really well.
Recount. What I'm saying is that it's kind of weird that you got fraud on one part of the ballot and not the other part of the ballot.
So say it from our perspective. It's kind of weird that somebody would vote red down ballot and vote blue up ballot. That's the same thing. It makes no sense.
Yeah, the top is the president, and then and then people vote local.
Right.
And so that's explainable. All right, let's fast forward because I'm going to run out of time here, giving you the chance to talk today. I got to get you on a couple more. I got to get you on the record on a couple more things. One is, how do you think the vaccine rollout is going?
I think Congress is showing how clueless they are, because why are congressmen why are they on shows getting shots? They're not essential. People hadn't even gotten their stimulus checks, but you want to show them, not only am I still getting paid, I'm going to get my shot before you get your shot, and I'm going to get my shot before I send you some money. So that's just pointing the finger at them. It's as good as can be expected. That's why the stock market is doing well. All behind the rallying behind what's going on. Now we have the vaccines out. People are going to feel good. The country does better. That bit of anxiety that would wag the market is now gone because the vaccines are here. Now we have 2 that have been approved by the FDA. what I've kind of, when I step back and I listen to African Americans not rushing to the front of the line to get this shot, so have at it. Are we going to start fooling ourselves that now people won't get sick and the numbers go down? And that's kind of rhetorical.
What do you mean by fool ourselves? Because the numbers start to go down as the vaccine rolls out, shouldn't the numbers start to come down?
Well, let's remember how we got here. With the whole lockdown wasn't so that people wouldn't die. It was just to flatten the curve, and everybody under that curve was probably going to die. That number of people was probably going to die. But we got away from that, and all the talk, all the, you know, how you just get yourself going. And then I think the focus left from 207,000 people dying. We already knew that. But people started to think, no, the lockdown meant that not many people are going to die. That's never what the lockdown was for. The lockdown was to stop the spike, not to decrease the death. So are we now back at this same point? So now there's a vaccine out. So are we fooling ourselves that the vaccine means that no one else is going to die?
Not no one, but okay. So if you flatten the curve, what you do is you extend out the time period for the number of people we're talking about getting infected and the total percentage of the people. Now you can get the vaccine in time to cut that number back. So that's one. I maybe the other thing though you could explain though is why so many Republicans don't trust the vaccine.
Well, I don't know that they don't trust. I don't know that.
49% say they will not get the vaccine. They're the highest group next to African Americans. And African Americans, we have clear history with government and what the government has done and our distrust of government, which is
Belmont report. Yeah.
Right. But by issue, such a high number, and that's why when you said the Senate, that's why it should have been such a big deal about getting the president, the first lady, the vice president, getting Republican leadership out to do it. I got a feeling that Trump's behind the scene negotiating something he wants, you know, from some establishment folks before he'll do, you know, you guys support my election stuff or I'm not getting that vaccine. What do you think about that?
I don't get that.
That you got Pence out taking the vaccine at the moment he's actually getting the injection. Trump sent you a tweet. You got his tweet? He's tweeting about the Russia votes during the ceremony, during the process. My man, listen, the gift that keeps on giving.
But you know? Here, along with the vaccine, did you see the nurse up in Chicago that passed out after she got the vaccine?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you see the surgeon who got the fake vaccine?
No, I don't know anything about the fake one. No.
Okay, so just Google fake vaccine shot. The surgeon.
Why would I do that? What all the crap on Google? I'm not Googling that.
That's the one they won't remove. It is a story.
I can Google six-legged cat and a six-legged cat.
But you won't see one. Google. This one is a film of the place. You couldn't fake this. This is actually the stage.
I'm not following that up.
Okay, so anyway,
that's vaccine. Let me say this: there's a real vaccine that's really helping people, and I trust that the vaccine is gonna do nothing or more for me than not getting the vaccine. And I you know, so the death rate from not getting the vaccine is way higher than the death rate from getting the vaccine. So we get the vaccine, but I'm just thinking that there's something afoot to me about such a high number of Republicans who are not getting, who are not willing to get the vaccine. We're almost out of time, so I'll let you go ahead and if you would close with your response to how do we get more Republicans, or does it matter if we get more Republicans to take
it doesn't matter or not, because I think that status or that point might be a bit misconstrued or at least misplaced. And I would say, just like anything else, I mean, there are a lot of things out there in all this time. You hadn't come up with the cure for the common cold, all this stuff, but in this year time, you've come up with something that's going to stop all these thousands of people from dying from a flu, you know, so what's the issue with that?
We have flu vaccines.
Well, I guess the way they're marketing this is what I said before. I really put it with how they spoke about the curve and this mask mandate. 15 days going to flatten, and now Biden's floating this federal thing about 100 days. So with all this going on, I'm not taking it. I mean, I'm not in the age group where it's that high enough. If there's a 99.5% survival rate for my age group, why would I let you stick me with something that you're not really sure?
I'm gonna tell you why, and here's why. Because I would just be beside myself if I got it and I gave it to somebody else who couldn't survive. So that I can go around my elderly family members and other folks who are vulnerable, I need to make sure I'm protected and safe so that I don't get you sick. That's kind of the theory behind it. You're right about this. For young people, they're not even vaccinating young people. But if you don't get it and you come around somebody else, that's really, really one of the fears that I have. And watching some people now deal with this thing, it can be devastating. Professor, as always, in hours, never enough time to hear from you, the great information that the public needs to know to understand why Republicans lost this last election. Hey, go ahead if you will. I'm gonna let you close out. Listen, final comment on where we go next. What we can expect next week?
I don't know what you can expect next week. I think it's really the end. I mean, we know we have January 6th that's coming up.
You need some music to go with that, man. You said it's the end. What?
I'll tell you, though. Look at the Ally Security Operations Group. Ally Security Operations Group. If you want to deal in facts and not so much this and that, I deal with facts. I deal with reports that I can read and numbers that I can kind of wrap myself up in.
Well, look, we got to close out. Here, let me throw this out, Professor. I think this is probably the most opportune moment to get a real third party, if it's done in a practical way. I want to thank everybody for listening in. We appreciate you very much. I want to thank the folks back in the studio for all their hard work. Listen, you've been listening to Intex News Radio. Everybody can be a star. We will be back here next week. See you then.